call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody in the gallery. Thank you for being with us tonight. Roll call, please.
Mayor Louis Trujillo.
Present.
Councilor David Romero.
Here.
Councilor Elaine Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilor Michael Montoya.
Present.
Councilor David Olivetti Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to just say a prayer for in Thanksgiving for all the workers that we have here at the city. They're hard workers with the snowfall. They were out there all night long, both storms, and we really appreciate the work that the Streets Department did and anybody else who helped. Thanks to our police officers, our fire department, all our clerical people are just doing such a wonderful job. And just a moment of silence just to thank them for everything. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I have a recommendation to amend the agenda, removing business item number 4, which will be placed on next week's agenda.
What's the reason?
Our finance director needs to make some amendments to the resolution, so he asked for it to be placed on next week's agenda.
Very well.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
There's a motion by Mr. Romero to approve the agenda. Second, please.
A second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Olivetti Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. Moving on, we have public input. I do have 2 individuals signed up. Our first one is Mr. Rod Billingsley, and he's speaking on the aircraft hangar lease agreements. If you'll come up, Mr. Billingsley.
Welcome, Mr. Billingsley.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak basically about my hangar lease. I worked with Scott, and we were able to work satisfactory and hopefully I think good for the city and good for me, and I just wanted to say thank you for that working relationship, and so that's really all I had to say about my hangar lease, and I know there's others that'll be speaking on the other hangars, but as you gentlemen know, I'm also chairman of the Airport Commission. We really think it's important for the airport to be able to generate revenues to support maintenance of the facilities, and particularly some of the buildings. Those buildings haven't been, there just hasn't been money authorized to do the kind of maintenance that needs to be, and so I would encourage you, as you develop your budgets, to remember that this is a facility that benefits the entire community, and it deserves your support, and we thank you for what you've done. Any questions? Or
is someone going to speak to the conditions of the buildings that you're referring to?
I think Dr. Brainerd will be speaking to that issue. His lease is different than mine because it's a existing hangar, and so I'd rather shut up and let Dr. Brainerd.
Thank you, Mr. Billingsley. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, we have Dr. Bill Brainerd.
Welcome, Dr. Brainerd.
It's nice to be here and meeting with everybody. We did receive a new lease agreement that was written up by the city attorney, I believe. And there were some concerns about it. I've been a tenant in one of the hangars that's, like they were saying, it's in kind of poor condition, but happy to be there. We're proud of the airport. I want to first start off saying that we as the tenants of the Las Vegas Municipal Airport are proud to be there. We're proud of the airport. John does a great job. And yes, there's all kinds of things that may need to be addressed that, sometimes we got the funds to do it, sometimes we don't. But we as the tenants, in the past 10 years, we've pitched in to help that airport as best we can as well. I can list a number of things that we have done for the airport. One starts with Rod Billingsley. He rebuilt that T hangar. It changed the looks of the airport. It looks better. Rather than have an old shell of a building, it's a nice new hangar. He went out his way to get that done. Granted, he benefits from it, but so does the city, and so does the airport. Rod also, he donated a courtesy car for the airport. It's for pilots that fly in there, and they can use it as they want, as they see fit. It's a benefit for the airport. Why do we do that? Because we're proud of the airport. We want the airport to succeed, but we benefit because we get some hangar space. My wife, she even got in and did some stuff for the airport.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, with the Compass Rose, which I think was a nice little addition. If you all are unaware, it's called the Compass Rose. It's painted on the pavement. It's out in front of the gas tanks, and it shows due north, and it's a compass out there, but it's painted really nicely. It was her and the New Mexico chapter of the 99s. The 99s are an association of women pilots. And I mean those ladies, they are into airplanes. And Nancy said, hey, come on, let's go out to, let's paint a Compass Rose in Las Vegas. And they got it all together, and they did it. It's a nice little addition. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but it's a nice little addition for the airport. Why? Because we're proud of it. There's, and then our hangar, the gate was coming into the hangar was broke, and it wasn't getting fixed for a while because funding, and I get it. The city's working on a budget. Well, the hangar I've been in had a broke door for quite a while. Well, I fixed it. You got out of my pocket, and it's okay. I don't mind doing that. Put $3,000 into a door. Well, that's okay. We got together and we fixed it. I fixed it. And then Carrie Lane has moved in. He's got a lease with the bottom hangar, and he went out of his way to fix the hangar door. This is the bifold big door, and he got that running. My point being, we as tenants, we actually pitch in a little bit and help the airport out. We're not just there paying, which was $100 a month, which is a pretty cheap rent. Well, being on the airport advisory committee with Rod Billingsley and the other tenants, we agreed, okay, that is pretty cheap. So last fall, we agreed, okay, let's take it up, a 50% increase in rent. We went from 100 to 150. Okay. And so then the airport, let's see. Okay, we did that. So then a new lease was made. Well, and it encompassed that 150, the increase that we all were fine with doing, but then took it one step farther in raising the rent 5% per annum from there on. Well, you know, in my opinion, I think that's asking a little much from us. We were already ready to do, you know, to increase what we did, and we agreed to that. If the city pitched in as much as we did and have since, you know, then okay, we can keep going up. But we're not getting the input from the city to help us keep those hangars maintained. So I have a little discrepancy with that. Now, the attorney may have changed something on that. I don't know.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. So I'm unaware of that unless you had emailed it out recently.
Yeah, what originally it started was, I was unaware that it jumped from 100 to 150, and that was just ignorance on my part. I hadn't been updated with that, so I thought it was at 150 we were raising the rate, and that's why the 5% per annum built in. That's been knocked down to 2% increase, and it'll increase by like $5 a year or something, so it'll be substantially less than it was.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a take back because we felt it was kind of a slap, you know, to us when we agreed a 50% increase, and we were okay with that, you know. So that kind of rubbed us a little bit the wrong way, and that's okay. Thank you, I appreciate that. I just was unaware since we talked the other day.
And no slap intended.
Yeah, I am sure that is the case. Let's see, what else was there? Yeah, and you know, I think John, the airport manager, does a nice job, and you know, there's stuff about us taking care of the weeds, this, that, and the other. Well, he helps. You know, he does what he can as well, and you know, we don't mind helping the airport out. I think we're all in this together. We want the airport to succeed just as well as you all do. So I think yes, we'll do our part. You know, a little bit, okay, do we need to get out and mow the weeds? Well, yeah, if we have to get out and mow the weeds, we'll do it. I don't know that necessarily needs to be in contract, but, you know, that's okay. And, you know, I think that's about all I have to say, and I'm sure welcome to answer any questions you all might have.
Mine's not so much a question, but a statement to thank you for your business, for helping the city out. We definitely,
Our pleasure.
We definitely appreciate it. Welcome to Mr. Lane for coming to the airport again, and Mr. Billingsley's been a customer of ours for many years.
Oh my gosh, and he does more than anybody knows.
I know.
You know, he pitches in and
I know.
And John, the airport manager. Kudos to John.
Yeah.
He does everything he can do, and he tries hard.
Well,
with what he gets, you know, he's allowed to do.
We really appreciate your business, and for your next meeting, I believe it's Montoya that serves on the...
Yes.
Yeah? Maybe we can come up with a list of things that maybe the city could help.
That'd be cool. I'm happy to, you know, pitch in and do whatever we can. And we're all willing to help.
Okay.
So...
Mr. Montoya?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are a good bunch, and you guys mean well, and you guys are doing the best you can out there, and so is John. You know, we do pump a lot of money into that airport. This last year, we pumped over $1 million on the runways and stuff like that.
Didn't a lot of that come from FAA funding?
Yeah, but some of it is matching from the city budget, so we do have to match some of it, a certain percentage of it.
I'm sure of that.
Now we're working on a water line, because that place has never had water. So that's going to cost $2.7 million. And we're working with economic development to see if they can help us fund part of that. We're also looking into this. This is late news as of yesterday, another company that wants to maybe come into the airport, and that would bring a lot of money. But we're still just in the talking basis. You guys will get involved, the committee will get involved on that one.
Okay, that would be good.
But it's fresh to us, and we still don't know all the players and all that it's going to take and so forth. So the mayor and council hasn't even brought up to us. But once we know more information on that, it might be something big.
Yeah, and we are, I know Rod and I are happy to be on that and help out any way we can.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate your business.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, that concludes public input. Next on the agenda is mayor's appointments, reports, recognitions, proclamations.
I just wanted to report that we're working closely with the Samaritan House for the people who live on Lincoln and have businesses on Douglas and so forth. We're coming up with a way to support them, and we're also trying to assist them with anything that we can as the city to help with the homeless population. So we worked with them. We had a meeting yesterday, which was a very good, productive meeting. We're going to be offering some more resources. We're going to talk about having a bigger police presence there. And so we want the people in that area to know that we're stepping up, we're taking care of the business there, that we will do whatever we need to do to help those citizens and the business owners around that area. And I know that Mr. Romero has been a very, very strong supporter of not only the homeless shelter, but also for the residents there. And he's been speaking up about this for quite some time, and he's very proactive in helping us to come up with solutions. Also at the meeting was Councilman Montoya and our city manager and the police chief and the fire chief. So working together, we're going to be able to help them a little bit more. We attended a legislative visit in Santa Fe last week. David Romero and Mr. Ulibarri and Mr. Maestas, we all went to lobby for our projects, and it was a very successful meeting. We met with Senator Campos and Representative Castellano, and David also set up some more appointments to meet with people. We've been working with DFA. We had a meeting with DFA, Department of Finance and Administration, to see how we are successful at getting some funding for some of our projects in Las Vegas. And so it was a very successful trip last week. And I'd like to thank the council who joined, and of course Mr. Maestas for being there. And we're moving forward, crossing our fingers that all the money that the governor's talking about, some of it will come our way. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
Next, we have councilors' reports.
Councilors?
Yes, I have something.
Dr. Rodriguez?
Okay. I also want to add to that I am part of a legislative fellowship where we take students to legislate on behalf of Highlands and also legislate on behalf of our city. So we had 8 students that attend this yearly, and they speak to various legislatures. And I think it's important that we start involving the students more so, because legislatures love to talk to students. I mean, that's their kind of #1 priority. And they're working on a project to bring solar energy to the campus so that it would be fully solar energy. And they're very, they spend 2 whole days legislating, working together, and then they go over and shadow a representative, and during the shadowing, they also speak on behalf of Highlands and the city. So often, we may not do it as a whole council, but I want the residents to know that we're always working in different areas to make sure that we speak on behalf of the city. The other thing is, I've received a lot of calls also in regards to Samaritan House, so I have spoken to residents. I've spoken to the previous director, so there are issues, major issues, in regards to Samaritan House that need to be addressed. The third area is, and I always have to bring this up, people are loving the ice skating rink. I get comments constantly about how they love it, that it's located in the Safeway parking lot, so it's easy access for them. And then the final thing is, I'm still receiving multiple complaints about reverse parking. So I think the city needs to maybe reconsider that, reverse parking. A couple of reasons. One, it's slowing down traffic that goes through the plaza, and I guess if that's the goal, is to slow down the traffic, then it's doing the job. The other problem that residents have complained about is that on the south side of the plaza, when people back up, they take the sidewalk away, so people cannot walk on the sidewalk, especially if there's a patio extended, so then they have to kind of navigate around the truck onto the street, so that becomes a safety issue. So I would suggest, and I would like to see reconsideration of the reverse parking to repaint the lines and do the regular parking. I think you're going to get the same amount of parking spaces, and I think that was the reasoning. I mean, you just changing the lines. I don't see how you would not get the same amount of parking spaces.
This new model added about 15 new spaces.
Okay, so you reverse the lanes. I guess you would have to prove to me that it's not going to give, but it's neither here nor there. I just want to tell in my council report, what people are complaining about.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya?
I'd like to just let the public know that our city staff, our city clerk, and our city attorney had a couple of meetings, open meetings for the public to come in, and if they had any questions about the city charter amendments that are going to be happening, they only got, I believe, 2 individuals that came on those 2-hour sessions, 2 days. So the Chamber of Commerce invited me to go over the radio on their program to discuss the 19 amendments on February the 15th, and I extended that invitation with approval of the city manager for our city attorney and our city clerk to go along with me. And we're going to go and let the public know, be transparent with them, let them know what's in the agenda for the voting, and the 19 amendments. We'll go through them, discuss them, because it is going to be a lengthy voting process this election in March, and the clerk has already made the amendments available to the public over here at City Hall in the hallway, where they can pick them up and read them beforehand, so that they won't take such a long time when they go vote. But that would be it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. It's an hour program for the Chamber of Commerce.
And what radio station?
That's at KLMX, and they carry 5 stations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
Mr. Mayor, just on top of the report that you gave as far as us being in Santa Cruz, I do want to note that also myself, Councilor Montoya, and Leo met with the governor's staff to discuss, our options with them. I know we were priority on the ban. I know we had to, we met with the governor. She wanted to know what our priority was, and we said that we felt it was an emergency based off of where we are, where we might predict it to be with the drought this summer, because we are going to, we don't have the moisture that we've gotten. And I also, Mr. Mayor, want to note, and just disclose this, because I know there's been a lot of talk in the community with calls and emails that City of Las Vegas is not providing any animal control officers to the community, which that is not true. I need to make myself clear in that chief and city manager have used other city staff to take calls, which one is a code enforcement officer and they have 2 community service aides. We needed to clear that up because the city is doing its due diligence with that, Mr. Mayor. I also was able to look at the contract, and there's some issues within that contract that I believe that we need to address, that there's some fees that should be coming to the city of Las Vegas and they are not coming to the city of Las Vegas, so that's something that we need to discuss. But I think that it's very important that I think we're doing our due diligence in trying to recruit these animal control officers, but chief and city manager have done their part to make sure that we do have those services available. I just needed to make that clear because there's some word out there, and I know it was on the radio. There was a group of individuals on the radio, and I think what should have happened is those individuals should have met with the city of Las Vegas prior to those comments and to clear that up, so we get that the right information out instead of assumptions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Romero.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Olivari?
Yes, I have some things I want to talk about. They're still working on Salazar and Romero Street, the streets, and city manager and our street director are working real hard on them. They're coming along. They've been dirt streets for a long time, and there's some money coming with that. It's worth about $400,000 for each ward. We're working on Bernalillo, on Taos, and some other streets on the west side. So, we're just hanging in there and doing things little by little, but I just want to thank the staff and our city manager and our directors for what they're doing for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Olivari. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, we have our city manager's report. Mr. Leo Maestas.
Welcome, Mr. Maestas. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. We'd like to first start off with our typical slides that we do every month with our new employees. We'd like to welcome our 4 new employees from the last presentation, which would be Ms. Jaylene Sena with our assessment coordinator, Ayana Lopez, driver helper with our senior center, Mr. Arnold Lopez, and our public works director, and Jake Morales as our KED coordinator. We have 3 new businesses since our last presentation, which is Champion Express Car Wash, which everybody's probably already gone to, Diesel Rose Salon, and Superior Sign and Lighting. Welcome to the city of Las Vegas. We wish you well. What we've done now, by some of the direction of the councilors, is we have created a section in our website where we post the new businesses for that month to give them a little bit of advertisement on our city website until the next presentation. I wanted to give you a quick briefing on some of the community events that are going through community development. The first 3 are movie productions. Everybody's well known about Roswell. Roswell has finished filming for the season. Outer Range at this time is not coming back to Las Vegas. And Waco is a new film that will start in mid-March through June of filming in the city of Las Vegas. I'll let our chief of police kind of touch base on Coffee with a Cop next week in his presentation. Again, moving to the skating rink, we've had just over $3,000 of revenue has come into the skating rink. We're in the last stretch of the skating rink in its current location, which is in the Safeway parking lot. It's due to close down because of the rental of the tent, which will be next Wednesday. There is some talk with a vendor that is wanting to provide some funding to the city to extend the rental of the tent for us, so we can continue using it for another extended period of time. Again, the city of Las Vegas owns the ice skating rink, so we'll take it down, put it into storage, and we'll identify a location that we can deploy it again in the summer. Friday Los Frescos is in the planning stages. That is a music event that takes place. We've kind of amped up the amount of alfresco events that we're going to plan from the past years, starting in May, going through the month of September, which is a Friday afternoon from 5:30 to 8 o'clock, I believe. There has been Fiesta meetings to talk about the planning events, who we put on for entertainers, where we put stages, how we incorporate some of the youth into our planning of the event for this coming year. Moving down the line there, we are planning to an event for dedication of Soprano Aguilar, which is a member of our community that has dedicated most of his life to the music world and to the city of Las Vegas. So we'd like to dedicate the al fresco and the music season, including the fiestas, to Mr. Aguilar. And with that, we'll create a plaque that will be mounted in the park in front of the gazebo. And I don't want to get too deep into the rest of them, but I'll let you folks kind of read through those as we go on. And if you have any questions later on, just please feel free to ask. We've been chipping away at the business licenses that had been lacking, that were in the arrears with the city of Las Vegas. We had some businesses that were dating back 3-4 years that hadn't paid business licenses. When we first reported this back in December, we had over 100 businesses that hadn't paid or weren't up to date. Last month, we dropped it down to 70 businesses, and now we've chopped it down to 42 businesses. So we're continuing to chip away at this. Some businesses, it's hard to get a hold of. They've gone out of business, are out of town, whatever the case may be. We're continuing to address that so we can get this down to zero. So we'd like to tentatively set a date here for March 2nd for the crate blocks groundbreaking process. We've already contracted with an engineer, which is Pacheco Construction. They are also working on another project of ours, which is Salazar Romero Street. The contractor is prepared to break ground any day now, so we may let him start doing some things, and then we are planning, we're already in communication with the state economic development cabinet secretary Alicia Keys to invite her, and along with some of her staff from the Main Street department that she runs, to attend our March 2nd groundbreaking ceremony. Just a quick rendering of what a conceptual design of what it'll look like. This first phase is only going to encompass the East Lincoln from Grand to Railroad area.
You said March 2nd?
March 2nd, yes, sir.
Is that official or?
So that's the date that they provided with us. We're going to try to use that as an tentative date as of today's email that they sent us, yes. We had asked them if we could do it as early as the 17th, which would be next week. Ms. Alicia Keys was not able to attend that day, so they gave us the March 2nd. Just so we don't hold up our contractor any further and he can get on with the project. I'd like to touch base on a few little public service announcements. As you may know, we're in the dead of winter. We have a lot of water breaks and leaks going on because of the freezing temperatures. We want to let our citizens know about some of the things that they should do during those winter months. It's pretty common sense, but nevertheless, we like to ask to keep their pipes at a drip, or their sinks, faucets at a drip, to keep that water moving through the pipes so they have no least pressure in them. The other thing is that we're getting a lot of individuals that are putting their hot ashes in their walkout trash containers. You can see there, that's what happens to one of our containers when we have a fire inside of them. The other image, I don't recall if this is our image or a stock image. It is.
That's us.
So just 2 days ago, we did have on one of our transports to Wagamon to the dump, one of our trucks caught fire and sustained quite a bit of damage. So we want to remind the community about not putting hot ashes. There's some tips in there about letting them cool for 7 days and putting them in something that's non-combustible before you actually put them in the trash. The last thing there on the PSAs that I would like to bring up is that we're continuing the progress on Plaza Park. There's going to be some closures in the next few weeks. One's going to be some valley gutters that are taking place across North Gonzales at the Valencia-North Gonzales intersection. Also a valley gutter on Valencia and Bridge Street intersection. So that'll be a 5-day closure starting with on February 14th. Moving to the raised crosswalks, tentatively they're looking at February 21st will be a 7-day closure. That'll be so that they can do the raised crosswalks on the north and south side of the plaza at the same time to minimize traffic. And lastly, on my report, before I get into that, again, of the ice skating rink, I did provide you with some other information the discussion has come up that we'd like to identify some of the underutilized properties that the city owns, so we can figure out which properties we want to put up for sale. Obviously, we'd have to do appraisal to get full market value on those properties, the ones that the mayor and council decide to move forward with, and then we post those to the community so everybody has a fair chance to purchase any of those properties. There's also a map that kind of gives you a bird's eye view of the city that I provided to you there, that has city properties along with vacant properties. If you need more information on it, please let's discuss that. Also, I did give you another document which is from our Community Services Department, which is under Ms. Wanda Salazar, which encompasses our senior center, library, and museum. There's some information there that you can read through. I didn't want to add that to another slide. But again, as of right now, our ice skating rink is in its last week, so please, community, come out and enjoy the fun. It's been a great time. I think I've been out there, my kids have been out there, everybody's been out there and had a great time out there. So please come and enjoy it, give us our feedback on it. But I stand for any questions.
Just an observation. You said on the February 14th, you're going to have a closure. If there's any possibility, there's a flower shop on the plaza, and Valentine's Day is their biggest day of the year. If we could maybe postpone or move that date to the 15th.
That closure will be on North Gonzalez. It won't be on the plaza.
It won't affect that business area. Okay, very well. Thank you.
We made sure that it didn't affect Valentine's.
I know.
It was some of the restaurants that had
Business
Valentine's
for them.
events going on.
And the restaurants, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question also.
Yes.
With the ice skating rink, Leo, could we look at the possibility of purchasing a tent and not having to rent? The other thing is, if we purchase the tent, a lot of the residents kind of don't want the tent there all the time. Is there a way that we could open it up and as they skate, they have kind of the natural environment that they're skating to without us having to close it down, because the residents are loving it. And I hate to see it closed down. If we could possibly, if the reason we're closing it is because we don't have the rental tent, can we look at purchasing a tent so that we could keep it open year-round?
Yes, ma'am. We can definitely look at that. The ice skating rink is made to be out in the elements, so it can be designed to be out in the snow and the rain, so that's not a problem. It's just going to take more maintenance on our part to keep it up, the upkeep, if we put it in the elements, but we can definitely look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Romero?
Looking at this map of the city-owned properties, the last community development director stated to this council that all properties, I think we had sold the last two properties, I believe. One was to Mr. Parson and another one. But this map here shows that there's some vacant property.
There is vacant properties in the BBIG area, yes, sir.
Do you know how many?
I believe there was 4 originally and 2 have been sold.
So there's still 2 left.
I believe there's still 2 left.
Because that map looks like there's a little more. I mean, it does look like maybe the 4. And the reason why I ask is I had a meeting on Friday with the North Central Economic Development, and they were looking at the opportunity at DBIB. But after telling them that most of those properties, I thought all the properties were sold, they said that we couldn't, but if we do have them, maybe there is still that opportunity there to work on there for street improvements and drainage improvements. So as a matter of fact, I know we're meeting tomorrow.
We have a meeting tomorrow, yes, sir. I believe the 2 properties are on future cul-de-sacs. They're not developed yet, but they're on the cul-de-sacs. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. McCray?
So, Mr. Manager, does Gonzalo have the 4th of July, not 4th of July, Mother's Day already scored out for the Plaza Park? They've been advertising for a Mother's Day concert with a lot of different musicians coming into town. have they gotten a hold of the city, or have we gotten a permit already, or?
They're in the permitting process, yes, with Chuck Grego. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I was going to ask you, on that trailer that burned, is that insured? Does the insurance cover something like that?
Yes, sir, it is insured.
Council, yes, it is. All city vehicles are insured, and before we can put them on the roadway, we are currently working with getting all the information we need to turn it over to risk management for having it addressed.
I hope it was one of the older ones. Thank you.
Mr. Maestas, I just have a comment about your report. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
I really appreciate all the work that you do.
And again, just to mirror what you had said earlier, Mayor, our staff does have late nights in the cold weather. Our water departments, utilities, they get called at all hours. Our public works out on the snow. They're kind of at the mercy of every emergency. So I give them that. They're out, and I would love to be out with them doing the same things with them, but I do appreciate their time and effort.
Yeah, thank you. And please pass on my expression to April Gonzalez.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, we have a presentation not to exceed 10 to 15 minutes per person. And the presentation is by Anna Bannon with Nexam. She's providing an overview of a proposal to lease city property to install a solar farm.
Okay.
So she can, and this is through the virtual.
Welcome, Ms. Bannon.
Hello, thank you all for having me. I have my colleague here, Keith, who's going to give a brief overview of Nexam and community solar.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to run through a couple of quick slides just to give you a little background on Nexam and who we are, what we stand for, and what we do. So real quickly, Nexam was founded in 2007 by two U.S. Army veterans who returned from service overseas with a vision for transitioning us away from our dependence on fossil fuels and into a more sustainable, renewable energy environment here in the United States. So we've been in operation continuously since 2007 with a kind of a slow start at the beginning and have grown incrementally over the years. One of the things that makes Nexam kind of unique, we feel, is that we are a full service provider, and I'm sure Anna's going to touch on this, but Nexam does everything in-house from the development of the project through the engineering and construction, the long-term asset management, the customer acquisition and management, operations and maintenance for the lifetime of the project. All of that happens internally with Nexam employees. So folks who are dealing with us are always dealing directly with Nexam. A quick few numbers about us. Today we have just over 50,000 individual customers, primarily in the residential space, who are subscribers of our community solar farms. But we also have a number of small businesses, nonprofits, and some large commercial customers in there as well. We have about 1 gigawatt of projects that are either online or nearing completion at this point, with another couple of gigawatts in our pipeline scheduled for construction and completion over the next year or two. We've grown at this point to about 350 employees. We're headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts, but we have offices in about 6 or 7 locations across the United States. And we're active in a number of markets where the community solar legislation enables the implementation of these programs. Community solar farms, just quickly, you probably know, do not deliver electricity directly to subscribers. The nature of a community solar farm is that it generates clean electricity that is fed directly to the grid. That electricity generates a value that is shared and allocated out amongst the subscribers to that project, which does two things. It adds the clean energy to the grid, and it yields savings on energy costs for our subscribers. And I've got a little graphic that will show that. So basically, as I said, our farm is generating the electricity. We work with the local utility to connect that project to the grid. We receive credit for the power that we generate. We take on subscribers and allocate those credits out to our subscribers. Those credits essentially offset their existing electric bill, and then we bill them for the value of those credits minus the fixed discount. With Nexam, there's no long-term commitment, no cancellation fees. People can come and go as they want, as it makes sense for them. And so it's really just an easy way for people to save a little bit of money on their electric bill, but we feel more importantly, support the growth of clean energy, because obviously New Mexico and other states are working towards renewable energy goals, and residential rooftop solar is one piece of it, community solar is another piece of it, wind is another piece of it. So we feel that these community solar farms do play a pretty large role in helping folks get to those sustainability goals that they've been targeting. Just to look at there is no typical community solar farm. They vary in size, they vary in location, they vary in topography. Nexam, we take our role as land stewards very seriously. We have a number of projects that are currently part of our solar grazing program, where we use sheep for vegetation management. We have a number of projects that are certified as national wildlife habitats through the National Wildlife Federation, and both of those programs are growing each year. We're getting additional projects into the solar grazing program and certifications through the NWF. We're also working hard to make our plantings and our vegetation at each of these projects pollinator friendly. We're working in a couple of studies right now. We're participating in a couple of studies that are trying to design the ideal seed mix for these projects so that we can be a pollinator contributor to the community. So that's just a couple of facts about Nexam. We're really a mission-driven company that's committed to making clean energy more accessible to folks. We feel like the benefits of clean energy is not a privilege, it's a right. And so we're working really hard to expand access. And I guess last thing I'll say is, as part of that, we are building out our team internally to enhance our efforts in acquiring more low and moderate income subscribers to our projects so that the benefits can be accessible to those who really need them. So that's just a little bit about Nexam. Anna's going to go through kind of what she's proposing, and certainly happy to answer any questions if anybody has.
Great, thank you, Keith. So yeah, we're in New Mexico. I'm sure, as you may know, in the legislative session earlier last year, the Community Solar Act was passed. So we are operating under that bill. There are stakeholder, meetings still happening right now, and the final, rulemaking for the Community Solar Program is going to be completed this April. And the program is a 200 megawatt limit program. So we will have to apply our projects into it. We are expecting, they have not set, an exact date for when the program will actually open, but we are expecting it to hopefully open in this summer, but the latest would be early 2023, but the most recent feedback we've gotten looks like it's going to be opening around August time frame. So that's the timeline that we are operating on. The reason that we reached out regarding the property in Las Vegas was because, we're looking to do full-size projects, which is a 5 megawatt AC project, translates to about 30 acres normally. So we reached out to the property because it has that size that we're looking for. Additionally, there is P&M resources in Las Vegas, which is essential. Under the community solar bill, they do require the investor-owned utilities to participate, but they do not require the co-op electric providers to participate. So that's a couple of reasons why we reached out regarding that particular property. So we will have to apply all of our projects into the program. We're hoping to, get as many in as we can. We have had success in other markets with a program opening like this, so we do have experience doing that and feel hopeful about that.
Anna, can I just ask a question, and Leo too? Oh, there we go. You're gonna specify which piece of property that you're looking at there.
Yeah, I am. I can skip that quickly just to show you. It's off of Aragon Road. It doesn't have a specific address. Parcel number is 661735. It looks like an industrial parcel. I kind of just did a quick outline here to show you that that's about 26 acres in that green outline. So that's what we would be looking to use. This was the original parcel that we reached out about for the reasons that I had mentioned, but if there are other properties that you'd be interested in using aside from this one, we're happy to, look into other options as well. So that's the property, and then I'll just skip back one here just to do a quick overview of the actual proposal. I've been communicating with Scott Aaron, and he received the proposal. It's basically an overview or a condensed form of our greater option and lease agreement. So basically, there's an option phase. It is 2 years due to us waiting on the program to open. Additionally, we use that option phase to perform due diligence on the property in terms of environmental assessments, and applying for interconnection with the utility. Both of these things can cause issues that could, kill a project. So that's why we do have an option phase. The 2 years is certainly a bit conservative, but there's just some things that are out of our control. And for the option phase, we are offering $1,500 a year to, have access to the property and perform those tests that we need to. After that, we move into the development and construction phase. This is essentially when we get all of our permitting and then do the actual construction. The construction itself generally takes 4, 5, 6 months in that range, so it doesn't take too long, but again, there are some things that are out of our control in terms of interconnection with the utility and permitting. So we do offer $400 per month during that phase, and then we move into the operation phase, and that's when the actual lease starts. It is a 20-year lease with the option to extend one 10-year and 2 5-years for a total of 40 years. We're offering $1,300 per acre per year. That would increase by 1.5% each year thereafter the first operating year. Additionally, Nexam covers any property taxes for the footprint of the project, whatever taxes, are already assessed against the property, and any taxes that may be assessed due to the project. So we cover all of that, and as Keith mentioned, Nexam is vertically integrated, so you would be dealing with us the whole entire time rather than having to talk to, different companies or developers. There are some developers that will build a project and then immediately sell it off. Nexam owns and operates all of our assets. So, we would be doing all of the operations and maintenance once the project was completed, taking care of everything in that sense. So, I just wanted to kind of do an overview of the proposal. That's pretty much it, and I will open it up to see if anyone has any questions. I will say, this is very, very early stages. There is more due diligence that we would have to do on, the project itself, on the property, before moving ahead, but, we think the property has good potential for a project, so we are definitely interested in investigating that further.
Mr. Romero? And on your proposal, how did you come up with the amount for the lease, for the operation fees?
Yeah, we, this is kind of based off of other similar markets and what we think would work, or, what our models say would work economically for a project of this size. With regards to the program that is opening, I will say that the amount is everything, all the terms are negotiable. That's kind of our initial offer, with what we think is fair for the area and what we know that will work with the project economics.
Okay, but I mean, and the reason why I ask is, it should be, the city's diligence to get the appraisal to kind of see what the market value is. And I'm just curious, is that going to be done in Leo, or?
Scott's had most of the conversation with him.
The city certainly could get an evaluation done to see what this size property is.
Because I broke it down, you had said it was, I broke it down, it was about $2,800 overall a month, based off of the cost of, the $2,800 for each acre. Is that correct?
She said $1,300 per acre per year.
Yeah, so it comes out to
$34,000.
That's just for the first 2 years.
Yeah, but monthly that comes out to about 28 a month for the 26 acres.
Well, was it 400 for the first?
Can you put your spreadsheet back up, ma'am?
Sure, yeah.
And I guess, we just got to make sure, in our reporting, and I was going to bring this up later, but it kind of falls into this, is and I'm not sure if Jesus would know about this, but there's a new reporting measure called a GAPSP 87. And in that, we got to make sure that any leases that we have are reported through this, and that we have accounting for the fair market value on any of our leases. So I'm just, we got to make sure that we're in compliance, and we got to make sure on that. So if we do move forward, that's something we are going to have to look at.
Sure, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. We can certainly, discuss that further. I can talk to, our finance team and everything on that as well. This was just, in line with what we've been offering, other landowners, I guess, in this area as well, just due to the market and, what our financial team has said. But I'm certainly happy to, dig a little bit deeper on that and get back to you on exactly how we came up with this number, and happy to discuss it further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Montoya?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. So are you guys getting any credits from the PRC on this project, from the state? Is there any credits?
That's kind of has to do with the actual, I can't say exactly. There are incentives that are given, yes, with the community solar bill. But I don't know them off of the top of my head, but I can certainly look into that as well.
That's fine. And there's no water lines or water out there. Are you going to require any water?
We won't require any water, no.
Okay. And how many employees will this bring to our community? Or how many jobs?
I don't know exactly how many jobs, but we obviously will subcontract out for all of the construction efforts on the site. I don't know how many, construction personnel are usually on a given site, but again, I can get that question back to you as well. I don't know if Keith, you have any additional?
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, because we've been talking about this. The question comes up a lot, and we've kind of looked into this as an average across a number of similar 5 megawatt-ish projects. typically generates about 60 full and part-time positions during the construction phase in the area. As Anna said, our construction team, we have construction managers, but most of the labor is through subcontractors, electrical installation, civil work, etc. And typically on a project this size, over the course of the year or maybe a little more that it takes, there's about 60 jobs associated with that. And then when we go into the operational phase, it's obviously a much smaller number, a handful of jobs if we contract with a mechanical vegetation maintenance crew, or if we partner with a farmer for solar grazing, etc. It would be a handful of jobs moving forward, because these projects are pretty hands-off once they get operational.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? We appreciate your time with us tonight. We will be discussing this further, and we appreciate you looking at Las Vegas as a part of your business plan.
Great. Thank you guys so much for allowing us to present. I'm happy to, discuss anything further. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Happy to provide any materials that you may need.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, we have approval of minutes for January 12th and January 19th, 2022.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero to approve the minutes, second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
And Cassandra, again, thank you. Great job on those minutes.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Your team.
My staff is really good.
Your team is doing a great job. Thank you, Danelle, for everything. But thank you for your hard work.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Next order of business, please.
We have our consent agenda, and we have 5 items on there.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I had one question.
There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second it. I have
Okay.
a question.
Go ahead.
On consent agenda item number 3, the amendment number 3, contract 3520-19 with Haze Plumbing. On page, they're not numbered. Yeah, page 4. In the second paragraph, subcontracting, number 8. I would just like to add one word, and that would be the word manager, city manager, on the second sentence. None of the work and services covered by this agreement shall be subcontracted without the prior written approval of the city manager. Instead of it just saying the city. So any subcontracting, I'd ask that be included on it.
Do you want to restate your motion?
Mr. Mayor, I amend my motion to include the amendments.
Very well. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Romero, second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you so much. Next order of business, please.
Moving on to business items. Number 1, request approval to publish ordinance number 22-01. This is an ordinance to amend the code of the City of Las Vegas by adding a new article, 14, Chapter 12, Traffic Regulations, to be entitled Automated Speed Enforcement. We have our City Attorney, Scott Aaron.
Welcome, Mr. Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a second to pull this up, that way I'm looking at the same thing you're looking at. Number 6. Okay, this was an ordinance that was forwarded to me by Councilor Romero, so I don't know too much about the history of it, but certainly any questions about what's in the ordinance itself, we're happy to go over.
Mr. Mayor, could you just please state the intention for the amendment?
Well, my understanding is the intention for the amendment, or for the ordinance, you mean, is to assist law enforcement in monitoring speeding and speed enforcement in the city without necessarily having to have multiple officers out there pulling people over when it's cold or snowy or wet or icy or whatever. That this is a small trailer based system that can be parked various locations around the city and can do a lot of that automated with a law enforcement officer reviewing any video or any alleged violations. An officer fully reviews that before obviously any notices get sent out. So there's a human element as well. It's not just a mechanical.
Thank you. Mr. Romero?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to, the reason for this proposed ordinance here tonight, as we're all aware, I think we have all as councilors been called, by so many times from constituents within our area, within our wards, about so many speeders in the neighborhoods and certain streets within the city of Las Vegas, and we all understand and that our police force isn't at full capacity the way it should, and we're limited with the manpower that we have. So the reason for this ordinance was that we can't continue, and I think we've all been asked of this, and Danny has been busy with this, is putting speed bumps all over our community. And our community cannot handle any more speed bumps. I mean, it's ridiculous that, and I'll be the first, I've asked for him in my area because the constituents have asked for that, but there comes a point where we cannot be the community of speed bumps, and our law enforcement isn't where it should be, so we need to look at different avenues on how do we address this. And I know, Mr. Mayor, when you came in, you had a blitz, a speed enforcement blitz, but it takes away, at the end of the day, it takes away manpower from the police department, and they have so many things that they're dealing with from day to day. So this proposed ordinance is to address that, to put hopefully one or two, and I know Councilor Lease has addressed a lot of speeding in his area. So this was just something creative for us to look at. We can start with one or two, but I think that one or two is going to help us out a lot. I know there's going to be some criticism as to Albuquerque had it, but the issue that they had, and then this new ordinance basically follows their corrections and what they dealt with. Pretty much they already did the trial. They fixed what needed to be fixed before. They were just having the company, and this is just the first part. There's still some other parts to this that there's the company that we have to go with to get these speed enforcement mechanism. But what was happening in the past is that these devices, speed enforcement things were triggering the speeding, and then they were automatically, the company was sending the individuals, the registered car owners, the tickets. With this ordinance, basically an officer will have to, we'll get the video, the officer will have to sign on, because under state statute, am I correct, Mr. Chief, that an officer has to witness speeding. So with that, somebody will be looking at this, and everything will be legal, in court. So pretty much this mirrors what Albuquerque Police Department has done. And again, this is just another remedy to start addressing some of our speeding issues in the community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Liability?
to approve public ordinance 22-01.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Liability to publish the ordinance 22-01. Second, please. Second, Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Livari Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Olivari Jr., a second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
And if I get a ticket for
You can challenge it in court.
next order of business, please.
Item 2, request approval to publish ordinance number 22-02. This is an ordinance to amend the code, the City of Las Vegas, by adding a new section 4 to Chapter 22 to be entitled Expenditure Accounting Report. We have our City Attorney, Scott Aaron.
Mr. Aaron?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this also was an ordinance that was suggested and proposed by Councilor Romero, and what this does is this sets up a framework for organizations, whether they're nonprofits or they could be for-profits, who receive funds from the city if the city's, they're doing business with the city in terms of the city giving them kind of a donation type situation, that this provides for some transparency for the city to be able to request budgetary information from them in meeting minutes, and allows the city to participate in their meetings. And so it appears to me what it's trying to do is bring some accountability to our relations, to the city's relationships with some of these different organizations.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I just also want to add on this. Pretty much as we're aware, this council has brought accountability to nonprofits or any organization that has received any city funding, and you would think that on some of these issues, some accountability would happen, but we've had, as you know, in the past, some fights and issues that organizations felt that we shouldn't know where some of this money is going. So this is going to bring some transparency to the community, that any nonprofit or profit business that receives any city funding, that the community will know where these funds go. In this proposed ordinance, it mentions about any business or nonprofit or profit or for-profit that receives city's funding, they shall post all of their budget info pertaining to the funds that they receive online, because most of them do have websites. And it's just going to give a better understanding to the community that they know where their tax dollars are going. And it also gives, requires some of these. I know we had a nonprofit that didn't feel that City of Las Vegas should be attending any of their board meetings, which I think that's totally wrong. So this ordinance, opens up the doors to where, they got to be transparent. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on this, Mr. Romero. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero.
I make a motion to publish ordinance 22-02.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero to publish ordinance 22-02. Second, please.
A second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you for your good work, Mr. Romero.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott, for all your work. Appreciate it.
Item number 3, Mr. Mayor, we request approval of Resolution 22-06. This is a budget adjustment in the 2021-2022 fiscal year budget. We have our Finance Director, Jesus Vaquero.
Welcome, Mr. Vaquero.
Mayor, Council, Resolution 22-06, $45,500 for the general fund and $3,824,686 for the street funds. That's the budget for Legion Drive. And the $45,000 is the adjustment needed for our deputy city manager.
Very well. Any questions? What's the pleasure of the council?
So, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya. Second, please. Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Olivari Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vaquero.
Mayor?
I appreciate you staying up tonight with us. Thanks. Next order of business, please.
Item 5, request approval to award RFB 2022-19 for the Hot Springs Boulevard water and sewer utility improvements to Haze Plumbing and Heating Incorporated. We have our Utilities Director, Maria Gilvery.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Before I go through, continue with this, I would like to disclose that my son does work for Haze Plumbing.
Thank you.
Back in November, we advertised in the Optic and the Albuquerque Journal for a water and sewer project on Hot Springs Boulevard. This is to replace some aging water and sewer lines. We had 2 proposers. Haze Plumbing came in at $1.373 million, including GRT, and Lone Mountain came in at $1.757 million. We did have our engineer review the documents, and the engineer did send a certification letter saying that they were both within their proper documentation, but since Haze did come in at lowest, this was an RFP, they recommend awarding to Haze Plumbing.
Thank you.
This will be 2 projects, $839,000 for the water side, $427,000 for the sewer side. The water side is partially funded under an SRF. $800,000 of it will come from SRF. The balance on the water side will come from the water budget. It is in the budget. And then wastewater will cover their portion of the project. We are doing this to get ahead of the road project that Public Works is doing. Danny did get some money from CDBG.
Yeah.
I believe $750,000 to do a road project. So we want to get the utilities upgraded before we do the road work.
Thank you. Well, good job, and good news about Danny's proposal. Thanks for your hard work, Danny.
Danny's been working on that for a while.
I know. Thank you so much. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ulibarri?
to request to approve the RFP 20-2219 for Hot Springs Boulevard. This project's been going on for a while. We badly need it. It's on the west side, and it's a lot of improvement on that side of our town.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Ulibarri. Second, please. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Have a motion by Councilor Ulibarri Jr., a second by Councilor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Next order of business, please.
Request approval.
Thank you, Maria.
Request approval to proceed with the professional services agreement between the City of Las Vegas and Arch Consulting. We have our city manager, Leo Maestas.
Mr. Maestas?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we've reached out to Mr. Robert Archuleta with ARC Consulting. Mr. Archuleta had previously worked for the city for many years, providing the services of managing capital outlay, ICIP projects for the city of Las Vegas, and went on to work for the county of San Miguel, where he then retired. We would like to use some of his services to help with managing some of the projects that we have, getting things in order with all the capital outlay projects that we have currently going.
Will this be anything to do with grant writing?
There is some language in the contract that would give him the ability to do some grant writing for us. Yes, sir.
Because there's lots of opportunities through congressional delegation of federal money that needs to come to New Mexico. So, thank you. What's the pleasure of the council? Excuse me, what's the pleasure of the council? Item number 6. Mr. Romero.
Make a motion to approve professional service agreement with Arch Consulting.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero. Second, please. Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Ulibarri Jr.?
Yes.
Have a motion by Councilor Romero, a second by Councilor Ulibarri Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
We have item number 7, request approval of a lease agreement with Billingsley for Hangar Space Airport Layout Plan Building 10 at the City of Las Vegas Municipal Airport. We have our Utilities Director, Maria Gilvery.
Technical question for our attorney. Can we handle all 3 at once?
There's 4.
4.
If you want to put them all on the floor and have a motion to approve all 4 of them at once. I mean, that's kind of consent agenda. I don't know whether we can.
All right, we'll go each one. Go ahead, Maria.
So, Mayor, Councilors, go ahead and have a seat, guys. So I've been working on this project. Mostly Danny and John have been taking care of it, but Arnold is now the Director of Public Works, and he's getting himself up to speed. on a lot of this stuff. These two gentlemen have a lot of the information along with Scott. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to turn it over to John and Danny to...
Are there any questions on this topic?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
With this particular agreement, I just wanted clarification because I thought it was mentioned that they themselves raised the fees to $150 a month. But with this contract, it comes out to $75.08 a month from 2023 through 2026. Is that?
That one was with who?
With Billings.
Billingsley? Okay, so the reason why, let me get the microphone over here. Mr. Billingsley's contract is going to be different than the other three. The reason being, Mr. Billingsley went in, lifted up the building, poured footings, totally revamped his entire hangar. He pays the utilities for his hangar, so he has a different pay schedule based on what he's put into it and the fact that he carries his own utilities. For the other three leases are individuals who are sharing one hangar, and they don't carry their own utilities. And like they said tonight, there's been some work done on this, but not nearly to the extent that Mr. Billingsley revamped his. So that's why three contracts pretty much are fairly identical, and Mr. Billingsley's is significantly different.
Thank you. Did that answer your question?
And is that mentioned anywhere in the contract, I guess?
I did put it in there that the basis of his fee schedule is based on the, I have to look over it, I don't have it right in front of me, but basically the fact that he put those...
Because I didn't see it, that's why I was asking.
It is in there, yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Montoya.
My question was, so this is an agreement for 10 years, but on your second page, it says that it's renewable in 5 years?
Which one? From Mr. Billingsley?
No. On your front page, it says that it's 10-year, space for 10 years. But on your second page, on item number 3 on terms, it says that agreement will be effective date and expire in 5 years.
No, the way that we've got it set up is that the initial term of this contract is going to be for 5 years, and then they have an option to extend it an additional 5 years for a total of 10 years.
Okay.
And Mr. Billingsley's is different than these other three. The times on his are different.
Mr. Romero, you asked for the floor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions, and this again is going to fall. Could you kind of, John, explain how the increase came about? How did you figure the 150?
So the 150, we have been doing $100 a month, essentially since I started, which was about 20 years. And recently we started the airport committee, and Mr. Billingsley, along with the rest of the committee members, trying to help the airport and increase revenue for us, decided that it would be a good time to increase the revenues, and they came up with the 50% increase to help out the city in order to put money aside to work on the buildings themselves, to kind of do a maintenance fund for them.
So was there, I guess my question would be, was there a documentation that we checked with other airports to see if we were comparable, or how was that done?
I think it was just kind of done based on our airport. Mr. Billingsley, and obviously they're all pilots, they have an idea of what that is. We're kind of in a unique situation because most of the hangars and airports around us have hangars that are in better condition. And so it's kind of hard to compare what, say, Raton or Taos or those, airports in the area that have relatively nicer hangars. I think eventually the idea of the committee is to get those hangars with this increase and start working on them so that we can get a better hangar for them and for future pilots.
And so this is my concern here. Again, and it's not only this contract or others, but going back, and the reason specifically why I get this. So there's that GAPSB 87, which is a government accounting standards board, And in that, with any lease, you're supposed to get a fair market value. So this ties to us making sure if we're ever audited, the city of Las Vegas is audited, we have that backup and documentation that says, well, this is why we came up with that price. So if we don't have that and we just kind of had, the board say this is what we came up with, if we're ever audited, my concern here is that we don't have the documentations to prove this is why we came up with that fee. And that's my concern with this, Mr. Mayor, is a potential audit, if they ever were to come and audit, this, that it's the airport is federally, and because of this GAPS B87, and I don't know if Jesus took off. This number 87 was just updated, and it started, I think it was in 2020. It was originally supposed to come in effect in 2019, but then they did an 18-month delay on using this standard in reporting, and so it's pretty new. It's new to all agencies. We got an update of this in December at a conference. So this is my concern here with this, Mr. Mayor.
Let me suggest something. If we approve these contracts tonight, is there something that we can add in the verbiage of those contracts to say why we came up with the money? Or a rationale as to the amount of money?
We can modify and put that in here, but what I'll tell the council is that I know two pilots that work out of the Albuquerque area, and I checked prices with them, and they said a price for hangar space in Albuquerque is around about $300 a month. In the outlying areas, it goes down from there, so $200, $150. We're in the ballpark, but based on the condition of those hangars, is probably why we're probably on the little bit lower side. I mean, it's $150 to $200 outside the Albuquerque area, so we're in the ballpark. You get outside of Albuquerque, you get into some bigger areas, Dallas, Phoenix, Denver, that stuff, it goes up from there. So we're in the ballpark. It's not that we're out of the ballpark. We have a really nice airport, but this particular hangar is not the crowning jewel at our airport. So that's why the price is set where it's at. But yes, I did call and do some due diligence. I don't have anything documented in terms of getting bids from other airports, but I tried to do some due diligence so we would know where we're at.
So maybe it's a matter of you documenting that.
Well, yeah, I could request
for the audit.
Yeah, I could request from Albuquerque and then some of the other outlying airports what their prices are, so we'd have something to put in the file to justify it. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
I think that would solve it better than an amendment to the agreement.
Very well.
So with that, what if the documentation is quite a bit more and shows that we're way under?
Well, my understanding is Albuquerque, outside the Albuquerque area, it's $150 to $200 for hangar space, and that's not shared. That's not necessarily shared space. These guys, there's 4 people sharing a space, so we've got some circumstances here that are justifying a downward deviation. We're not underneath what the going rate is, considering the condition of the building and the fact that we got 4 people sharing it. So the fact that we went from 100 to 150 and had a 50% increase was appropriate. I don't know. I think we might be hard pressed to find other comparables in regional airports that would justify any type of an upward increase. And I've got a 2% annual increase built into this price, so it's each year is going to go up 2%. So we do have some inflationary measure built in.
The other question that I had is the liability. Could you explain the liability? Something happens to the plane?
The pilots are responsible under this contract to carry insurance, which is just standard, is fairly standard in these types of leases. In the cities, so they've got, we've got insurance here to cover incidents.
And what about I know there was some language in here about fixtures, stuff like that, it would be the lessee's responsibility.
Yeah, so it was brought up earlier, I know, during the public comment about weeding and things like that. And basically, the language that I try to put in here is that if these tenants who are sharing the space want to improve that hangar like Mr. Billingsley did, it allows for them to get together and do that if they'd like to. They're not required to, but it allows for that. So there's I guess the sky's the limit in terms of how much they want to improve it, but there's not an obligation for them to do so.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to throw this out there because, we're trying to keep ahead on an airport that, if this gentleman wouldn't care about our airport, we probably wouldn't even have an airport. Because they volunteer a lot of their time and effort and money towards this airport. And I don't know why this governing, the city, the other governing bodies prior to us have never really put that as a first priority or part of a priority, because it is important for economic development. But if you go to Taos, you go to Santa Fe, all those people that have those hangars rented out are from out of state. And that's one thing that's good about this, is that we're helping our own local airmen keep their planes safe and secured at the same time. And I think that, down the road, I'm glad the way you did the contract, increasing it and limiting it because I think before it was like a 20-year contract on some of them. So I'm glad that you've cut it down in half and renewable every 5 years instead, because things do change and governments, bodies do change. But I think that this helps our community, it helps economic development. They even supply their own transportation, and I know that there's a couple of the motels. Also, if the pilots call them, they'll go pick them up in order for them to stay in their motel. So, to me, this is a win-win situation. At least we're not giving up free space. Like at one time there was giving us free space up there, and for other users and stuff like that. And I think this is all legit, and I would support this. And if there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the first contract with whomever it was, because I only have 3 of them.
Mr. Billingsley.
Billingsley? I'll make a motion to approve his, because I don't have his on here.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leibody. Roll call, please.
Councilor Romero?
And only because we don't have the documentation that concerns me with the auditing, GASB 87 is no.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Leibody Jr.?
Yes.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Leibody Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Aaron, will you make sure that we're good with that GASB 87 and that there's a verbiage that should be there or documented in your file of when you did the discovery for these contracts?
Yes, I've got a note in here. I'll just request in writing from some different regional airports so we can get some price comparisons and comps.
And now you have to understand, so of course Santa Fe has commercial, Taos flies commercial. Their runways are used a lot more, so they have to charge a lot more to people who have hangars in those areas just for the maintenance of the airport itself. And we don't have that much traffic here. So that might be a consideration as well. We do have traffic, but not a whole lot. But, I mean, I don't know if comparing Espanola, because Lano uses Espanola, or Taos, because they are commercial, if that's even a good comparison, compared to when you look at our little little airport, homely, I should say. So there's a motion on the floor, second, we voted.
Mr. Mayor, we can move on to item number 8.
Okay.
Request approval of a lease agreement with Carrie Lane for up to 10 years of hangar space at the City of Las Vegas Municipal Airport.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya, second.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Leibody. Roll call, please.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilor Leibody Jr.?
Yes.
Councilor Romero?
No.
I have a motion by Councilor Montoya, a second by Councilor Leibody Jr. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 9, this is a request approval of a lease agreement with Dr. Bill Brainerd for up to 10 years of hangar space at the City of Las Vegas Municipal Airport.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya, second.
A second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes, no, sorry. For the same reasons as because of my concern on that.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 10, request approval of a lease agreement with Gabriel Vigil for up to 10 years of hangar space at the City of Las Vegas Municipal Airport.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Montoya?
make a motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor, second.
A second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero? Counselor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari Jr.?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Rodriguez. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. Mr.
I'd just like to note that by doing this tonight, we'll also be able to be in good standings for our applications through economic development in the future for water lines or any other needs that we might have. They want to see us moving forward. They want to see us putting hangars, making money, and, I don't know, we're looking at other options for the airport, so all that will help us out to get more funding. And one last question I had for you. So this money will go back directly to fund or a line item for the airport for maintenance
Yes.
of the airport and the hangars and so forth? Not particularly for cleaning supplies and stuff like that?
No, it goes back
Or
into
building and grounds.
this line item for the hangar fees.
For maintenance,
For the
yes.
hangars themselves? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you being here. And thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you. What's the pleasure of the council, executive session?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to enter executive session for personnel matters 10-15-1 H2.
Personnel matters, thank you. There's a motion to go into executive session, second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Rodriguez. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We will convene into an executive session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Brainerd. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
motion to return to executive session after being in executive session, or to regular session. And like to note for the record that only those matters specified in the motion for executive session was discussed and no action was taken.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to go back into regular session. Second, please.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh,
We're all
I'm
in
sorry,
favor?
all in favor?
Yes.
And now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Mr. Romero. All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.